And the gentleman that testified before Congress said, nothing. People language, so here we go. Different format. I pulled out just a little bit to show the Hellfire making contact with the UAP. This is a much different format. And we're going to zoom in a little bit closer, take a couple of looks at the Hellfire making impact. It does indeed impact what appears to be the back half of this unknown object flying off the coast of Yemen. Right there, it makes impact. You can see it knocks it off course. And as you're going to see, somehow or another, right there following the impact, these three objects appear in the sky following the primary object right there. So the primary target turned into not only one, but four targets now. There's 1, 2, 3, now 4. It survived the strike. And the gentleman that testified before Congress said, nothing that we have should have survived that strike. And it turned into 4, 3 smaller ones, and then the main primary one continued on. This one here turned out pretty good. You can see that these things are the same shape and same size. Look at that. And this one here started to glow for whatever reason, almost as if it had some sort of an energy field around it. Maybe it was some sort of a propulsion system. This one here started glowing, and then that one there started glowing. The smaller things you see are reflections off the top of the water. Those things definitely had density. Let me go back to that one right there. That one right there turned out pretty good. You can see those things clearly are the same shape. Those aren't random pieces of debris, guys. So whatever that missile impacted, it didn't seem to affect it hardly at all.
All right, shalom, shalom. I want to give all praises, immense glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. All right, Yahweh the Father, Yahweh Shai the Son, whom the world ignorantly calls God and Jesus. These are their true names in the holy language. All right, the Paleo Hebrew. Double honors and salutations to the elders and the apostles and the rest of the elder bishops. Salutes to you, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, as well as the Israelite foreigners, Gentiles that might look like the heathen nations. You are the true bloodline biblical Israelites according to the covenant that was made between Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And to start this lesson, we'll just deal with the video we just saw of what the world ignorantly calls UFOs. All right. And, you know, we've heard conspiracy theories. 1 second. Broken Without Hand. That's Daniel's 8th chapter. There's been so many conspiracy theories about this subject, you know. And let me just grab this. This is a point I wanted to make. Which the conspiracy is the right word. You know, conspire, you know, hidden counsel. But it's not a theory, okay? The man who made the doctrine of the UFOs, right, a theory, is the Edomite, the biblical Edomite, the so-called white man, which is also titled to be known as the devil the Bible speaks of, which the word devil just clearly means, simply means deceiver, to deceive or false accuse, right? And so what we have is this man falsely accusing the angels of the Most High and deceiving the world. Okay, deceiving the world, as it says in Revelation, the 20th chapter, that he would go out and deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth. All right, speaking about the Renaissance. All right, which the Edomites were, you know, came back into power after a 1,000-year period of being in slavery underneath the dark nations. So after that Renaissance period, you had something called iconoclasm, where they pretty much whitewashed all the history, all the dark-skinned nations' history, all throughout Europe and much more, rewrote history. Okay, but one thing they also did is deceive the world as far as who the angels of heaven are. Okay, but let me get something real quick. And I didn't prepare this, so we're just gonna flow. Let's see something. I'm gonna hit 25, Daniel 8 and 25. And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, which is his mind, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes. Okay, and this is talking about Esau, Edom, the son of perdition. When you turn to 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, we're gonna go there. The man of perdition, okay, the man of sin who is exalting, himself as the most high. You know what I'm saying? So he's gonna stand up against the prince of princes. The prince of princes is Yahweh Shai, who you ignorantly call Jesus Christ. The so-called white man is preparing to try and fight the Lord at his return, which is a stupid idea. Okay, but this is the point. But he shall be broken without hand, and that's why I played the video at the beginning of the lesson to show you that it's going to be a flawless victory. And I've seen other videos. All right, that's just one video, which is a pretty lousy video. I've seen other videos where they were trying to shoot down the so-called UFOs, because they're not UFOs. They're actually identified objects in the Bible. All right, they're known as the clouds of heaven, the chariots of God, the horses of God. A wheel within a wheel, the flying roll, which burn with the color of amber. So the super elite know this. All right, they have their observatories, they have their astrologers, that pretty much do astrology, and they're constantly looking out into the heavens. There's certain important officials among their military, their government, that have come out and witnessed and told their testimonies about seeing the angels on these ships, pretty much to say that they look like so-called black people, man. All right, but broken without hand is what we want to focus on, because the so-called white man is scared right now, man. Terror should be upon it. Hold on. There's something I'm thinking about real quick. I know it's in Job. And then we're going to get some more. Now what's going to break these devils, without hand, is the great millstone. As a matter of fact, since we'll come back and get that, let's deal with that. The great millstone, all right, which represents what the world would call a fathership. Okay, a mothership, a fathership, man. That's what's gonna break in pieces. All right, this USA empire, okay, which also known as Edomite supremacy or Edomite world colonization. All right, Daniel's 2 and 42. It says, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And this is dealing with the statue that Nebuchadnezzar saw in his dream that needed to be interpreted by the prophet Daniel. Okay, and when it was interpreted, the Most High gave Daniel the vision of what to tell the king Nebuchadnezzar about his interpretation. And this interpretation was about a statue, which represented all the ancient kingdoms up until the modern kingdom that we're in now, America. Okay, Babylon the Great, aka the beast, all right, the dragon, all right, spoken of in Daniel's the 7th chapter, as well as Revelation the 13th chapter, Revelation the 17th chapter. All right. So I'm just honing in at the end of this chapter, at the feet, okay, because we're in the end of what you would call You know, they have a secular historical timeline. We're in the end of all timelines, in the beginning thereof of the kingdom's timeline, which is going to be here on the earth, which is forever timeline. So we're at the end of Esau, Edom, okay, which is the beginning of Jacob, which means we're at the end of the so-called white man's kingdom, which is the beginning of you so-called Negroes, Latino, Native American, the Israelites, the sons of God, the children of Israel. We're at the beginning of our kingdom, where first this place has to be broken without hand, thrown down, okay? And what we showed you at the beginning of the video is just an illustration of how the angels of the Lord were playing with those, were playing with Esau, Edom's angels, all right, his military, okay? It says, okay, because remember, Esau, Edom has angels. The so-called white man, he has messengers as well. The left-hand messengers, you know, which, okay, they're still set up by the right hand, but that's what the word angel means, a messenger. Okay, and we're going to go to that after this, but let's hit to the point now. 42. 41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes part of the potter's clay, okay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. This is speaking about Babylon the Great and its cohorts, which is the National Alliance Treaty Organization and the European Union, NATO and the EU, which is known as the Beast. 7 heads and 10 horns, okay? So it's divided, okay? America is divided. And we've seen those divisions over the years, these different conflicts, financial, you know, America calling out, you know, the EU for, you know, owing money, you know, being a burden, okay, divided, you know what I'm saying, divided in different, and you know what I'm saying, different arenas of policy, you know, but there shall be in it of the strength of iron, for as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. Okay, because this is still a strong kingdom. All right. Also, Rome, ancient Rome, was known as the, you know, iron. You know, the iron teeth, having teeth of iron, trampling down, you know, the nations around them. Okay, in America is that iron, are those iron teeth? It's the head, all right, that doth bite, destroy. It's the head of the Edomite supremacy. It's the, you know, what you got Edomites in Russia, you got Edomites in all nations around the earth, but America is the reason why the Edomites are in power. Okay, the spearhead. And the clay represents the debt, you know, the debt, and it also represents the mixture of the people, all right, the melting pot, you know. It says, miry clay. One second. Where was that? Okay. Whereas the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken, 42. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron, because I'm trying to get to the point, and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Okay, and America is on the verge of civil war. All right. So it's divided. It's partly strong, partly, you know, the debt issue. Okay. Again, Second Esdras, the 15th chapter, is literally flying off the page. Civil war. All right, people, the tension on the people is at an all-time high. People are reaching their breaking point. The financial system is totally shot. It's getting worse. All right. It says, and in the days of these kings shall God of heaven set up a kingdom. This is what we're speaking about. Okay, these vessels of what these you've been taught to say UFOs are actually the angels of the Most High. Okay, there's this place, what you call Earth, has already been scouted out and it's taken. And I'll go there next. It's taken already, man. Okay, you might as well repent. and seek ye the kingdom of heaven, man, because it's of God, all right, of Yahweh Bashim Shai, because this place is already taken. We're going to get a scripture to prove that next. Just because you can't see them, these are extraterrestrial beings, all right, and they can manipulate the elements around them. And this is why they're also known as the clouds of heaven, because they can cloak themselves. What you think you're looking at as a cloud can actually be a giant UFO, all right? Or you know, you just won't see it at all. So when you do see them, when they do pop out, they're just toying around. Okay, so this is why terrorists should make these Edomites afraid, man, the so-called white man. And so they're, you know, they have a saying, misery loves company, or, you know, if, you know, I forget the saying, but pretty much if you got to go, you want to bring people with you. And that's what these devils are doing. They're starting to talk about this in their media. When in times past, this was a high level conspiracy, and the most used to hear about it is Area 51, the conspiracy theory. And like I said, it's not a theory, it's a conspiracy, because they're hiding the council from you, but they don't want to tell you quite what they are. All right, they don't want to tell you they're the angels of heaven, that they're the angels and the brethren of the Israelites here on the earth, which are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. That would empower you, and that would change the face of the nations, okay? That would change people's reality from this delusional state, and it would actually prove Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, that the whole duty of man is to serve the Most High, okay? All right, so this place is surrounded already. Pretty much Yahweh Shai, who the world English called Jesus Christ, is just waiting for the go-ahead to come through the atmosphere, the Van Allen's belt, and manifest himself and deliver his elect. Okay, but that time has not come yet. All right, where we you know, because on that, when the Lord returns, He's going to return to a world on fire and nuclear missiles. Okay, and that's raining down, and that's why the elect is going to need to be saved out of that fire, man. But right now, as it says in 1 Corinthians, the 4th chapter, ye are made a spectacle. All right, the heavenly host is just watching. All right, prophecy finishes its last seconds of its course. Okay, but this is the point right here. There was a point to me reading all of this. It says, and in these days, this is 44, of these kings shall Yahweh set up a kingdom. All right, these kings are talking about the so-called white man that are dispersed throughout the earth, that have colonized and set up throughout the earth. Job 9:24, which shall never be destroyed. So now the kingdom is getting ready to be set up, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. Yeah, not to these other nations, only the Israelites. But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms. Okay, and it shall stand forever. What is that? It, remember, broken without hand in Daniel's the 8th chapter, and it shall be broken without hand. Okay, Esau, Edom's kingdom, in this context, in Daniel's the 2nd chapter, that statue, all right, from the head to the toe. We're at the toes. We're at the end of history, of what you would call his story. Okay, 45, for as much as thou sawest the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands. All right, this represents a gigantic ship. Okay, a stone like a mountain, and that's going back to 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter, where the prophet Esdras received the vision, and he said it looked like a mountain. Okay, that because you know, he looked up and it looked like a mountain that covered the sky, because there was no end of this fathership. Okay, Lord's willing, we get that. So this is that stone. Okay, remember, Yahweh Shai is known as the rock of salvation, the stone that the builder set at naught, the chief cornerstone. Okay, and as it also says in Acts the 1st chapter, the same way that you have seen this man Yahweh Shai taken up is the same way that he's going to return. That was the what the angels told the disciples as Yahweh Shai was lifted up in mid conversation. Okay, beamed up on what the world would ignorantly call UFO. Okay, he was beamed up out of their sight. All right, and the angels had to explain to them, look, why stand ye here gazing up so earnestly? The same way you've seen him taken away, the same way he's going to come back. The clouds of glory, the ships, man. So this is just an account. Okay, remember the Bible is written in parables. Okay, it says, okay, for as much 45 as thou sawest, the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, the gold. Okay, the great God Yahweh, Elohim, the angels, hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure. Yeah, so the interpretation is sure. So King Nebuchadnezzar back in his day got a full-on breakdown of what was going to happen in the end days. That the entire, heathen population of rule within the earth was going to be casted down, and the Most High was going to set up a kingdom. Okay, so that mountain, maybe we can get straight to it. That mountain that was seen. All right. 1 second. Okay, 2 Ezra 13 and 2 and 3. And I behold, and lo, the man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. Who is that man? Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. The thousands of heaven are the rest of the chariots, what you would ignorantly call UFO invasion. And that's spoken of in Jude. All right, Jude, the first chapter, the thousands of heaven. Okay, and also Daniel's the 7th chapter. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were under him. Yet the earth is going to tremble when the Lord returns. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they that heard his voice, like the earth felleth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Yeah, that links up with Revelation, the 12th chapter. Satan and his angels. All right, the super elite, okay, which are also known as Satanists. They come after the workings of Satan. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter. Okay, they have messengers. They have angels as well. The U.S., these U.S. armies, air forces. Okay, the so-called white man has his air force. All right, they're going to come up against the Most High and his angels. Okay, that's what this is speaking about. It speaks about that in Revelation, the 12th chapter. Okay, and they're going to be casted down and shall never rise again. All right. That's what it says in Revelation, the 12th chapter. So this is that great multitude of men. All right. They're going to be called to fight, and doth fight. The Most High is going to put the spirit on them to fight because they're going to be scared. All right. But the Most High is going to make them fight on that last day, because the scriptures say that the Lord is going to destroy the armies. Okay. The armies of the world, the valley of troops, which are being gathered now. Okay, it says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain. Yeah, a stone. Okay, a hewn stone. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Yahweh Shai is that hewn stone, and he's going to come back on that great giant stone. Remember that movie UFO, what was that, Independence Day? That they got that idea straight out of this chapter. It says he graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it. And I would have seen the region or place where out of the heel was graven, and I could not. Yeah, because the prophet Esdras is saying it was that big. That's how big this gigantic ship was above my head. It looked like hewn stone. It looked like a mountain, and I couldn't even see the end of it. You see, that's what he's saying. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yes, durst fight. Yeah, like I said, they're going to be afraid, but they're going to fight because the Most High is going to put the spirit on them to fight. Okay. And lo, and he saw the violence of the multitude that came. He neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument. but only I saw that he sent out with his mouth as it were a blast of fires. This is saying that Yahweh Shai, the man on the ship, he didn't have no weapon or no guns or no switch nozzles coming off of the ship. That, okay, it was all spiritual power. Those ships are vehicles. They're spiritual, the creatures themselves. Okay, and they have, okay, the angels can manifest power through these. They become one with these vehicles, the chariots. Okay, it says and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming fire. Oh yeah, let's go back to 10. It's talking about how, let's read it. But only I saw that he sent fire out of his mouth. Yeah, he commanded fire, and it, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath. Out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. Yeah. So he didn't lift up a hand, nor any instrument of war in the 9th verse. Okay. But these are the things that the prophet Edris saw the ship doing. And that, I seen a video where they was trying to shoot this one chariot down, and it was crazy. It was 2 of them. And it was the strangest thing ever, because you had 2 chariots like a ball, like a silver golden ball just sitting in the middle of the air, right? Like just a silver metallic mass in a circle. And it was oozing some type of metallic ooze nonstop though. It was just, and you can hear the helicopter pilots, because they were shooting missiles at it. They were speaking about it, like saying, man, look at this. I mean, it seemed to be dripping some type of metallic substance, and they kept shooting it. And here it is, just sitting in the middle of the air, metallic, dripping a metallic substance, and the missiles are not even phasing it. Like the clip I just showed you, the chariots are acting like the missiles are doing something, but it's the ships are actually multiplying at the same time. But the other clip I saw was the thing not even being phased while dripping some metallic metal. It was the strangest thing ever. And then I seen another video that was wild as well. And I can tell these videos were real. And there's a lot more video files that they're not going to show us. And these are the chariots just showing. But see, I'm bringing you to the end, to the very end of the climax of the story. And that is the last day of salvation. And this is when this day is going to take place. But before that, I'm going to get one more scripture after this. All right. It says, 11. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived. Yeah, and the laser beams that's gonna come off of these ships is gonna burn up the multitudes, man. But only dust and smoke, a smell of smoke. See? When I saw this, I was afraid. All right. Where else was I going? So, the day of the Lord is not a, woe unto them that desire the day of the Lord. It's a day of darkness and gloominess, not light. Woe unto them that desire the day of the Lord. You people, okay, it's going to be, the day of the Lord is going to be wailing and mourning, man. People are going to wail and mourn. You people don't really want this day to come, man, because the Lord is going to punish the inhabitants of the earth. And if you don't have his name, you don't know the Lord's name, that means he hasn't given it to you. Okay? You haven't been written down in the book of life. You see? And so this is the importance of the prophets. But you people don't want to, you don't want to acknowledge who the Lord's prophets really are. Okay? Let's get this real quick. Let's just get straight to it. All right, this is why, I was going to get it, shall be, terror shall make them afraid. Let's get it real quick. 18 and 11. Terror shall make him afraid. Job 18 and 11. Terror shall make him afraid on every side and shall drive him to his feet. Okay, the super elite of this world, the so-called white man, which are lying to you everyday people about what's going on in the heavens. And he's going to attempt that Project Blue Beam, all right, to further bring confusion about what's going on. Again, he's afraid to the point where he has to mention, these incidents in the heavens, because he has nobody else to tell. The earth has been given into his hands. Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. All right. So he wants to tell somebody and run to somebody, but he can't tell the truth about it, because that would disrupt all of his pseudoscience, his lies, and pretty much exonerate God and his people. This is Zechariah 5:1. We're going to end it here because we could get more scriptures. We can even get scriptures bringing out how the chariots actually fragment themselves and break into different pieces and then fly in ranks, as we saw in the video. In the book of Ezekiel. We could get the description of the different descriptions of how they look. We get the scriptures dealing with how the Most High explanation of why he called them clouds, and and proving that they are the vehicles of the angels. Okay, but I'm just getting to the point of the aspect of why they're here. It says, "Then I turned and I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, and I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. And so the prophets also seen these things just as we see them as well, personally. But right here, all right, the angels were giving Zechariah the prophet a vision of the times that we're in now, all right, that will come, that will precede his days, all right. The use of these flying rolls, all right. Then said he unto me, This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. Yeah, we're in that time, all right, because Yahweh's return is going to be a curse to all of our enemies, starting with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off on this side according to it. Yeah, who stole, okay, the rulership seat of the earth. Okay, who's known as the colonizer? Who's raped, robbed, and murdered all the inhabitants of the earth? The indigenous people of these different lands, man. So this is the curse that are driving these people to their feet, that are bringing terror upon these people, man. Okay. That taunting parable that the scriptures say would be spoken to that wicked family. All right, the super elite families. Okay, now that parable is being spoken. How long shall you, what I'm saying, pretty much rob the earth? Where is that at? I believe it's in Nahum, and it's also in how long shall I forget? It might be Obadiah. I forget where else that's at. Habakkuk. All right. And everyone that swears shall be cut off as on this side according to it. Yeah, you cause people to swear on the Lord falsely, all right, via Christianity, your whole legal system, which is, you claim that you swear upon the Bible, all right. It has nothing to do. Your whole legal system, this whole world you've created around us is completely backwards. Okay, the little hat people are Edomites. Okay, they're the chief tribe of the nation of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. All right, and they're governing the earth and lying to the earth about being the people of God, but they are of the synagogue of Satan, Revelations 2:9. All right, so this is a complete, okay, that's what it means to swear falsely. Okay, I will bring it forth, saith the Lord Yahweh. Yeah, these chariots, they're already surrounding the earth. Okay, whether you can see them or you're not, they cloak, they have cloak technology. I will bring it forth, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, and it shall enter the house of the thief, okay, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name. Yeah, you Edomites are the thief. The so-called white man is the thief. It's not talking about Tyrone and them, okay, which are being demonized in the media of being thieves. No, it's talking about the real thieves. Okay, the man of perdition, the man of destruction, the man of, all right, 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter. The man who's after, who the Lord has sent his voice, okay, his prophets, and then after the brightness of his coming to destroy, in that same chapter. Okay, the Lord raising up his prophets after you devils, all right, and then follows the judgment, okay. All right. And into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of the house. Yeah. Your government, the word government deals with, management, house management. Okay. And you devils are terribly managing the earth right now, man. So these ships are here, man, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Yeah. The fire, and then, you're going to have those many ships that's going to multiply from that great fathership. Okay, the armies of heaven. Let's finish it with that. Okay. And, just focusing on this topic, we're going to end it with this scripture right here. Jude. There's so many scriptures on this. All right. But this is Jude 1:14. And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied on these things, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints. Yeah. That great fathership, that stone, that great millstone that is spoken of in Revelation, the 18th chapter. Okay. And that's why we give double honors and salutations to our elders. Great millstone, which was risen up, the elders, the fathers that's spoken of in Amos. Where is that? The 9th chapter. I mean, either the 4th or Malachi, the 4th chapter or the 3rd chapter. Speaking about the elders, would be the fathers, hearts would be turned back to the children, and the children's hearts to the fathers. Okay, speaking about, end time prophecy, the elders of the Israelites being raised up to gather up the rest of the Israelites. Okay, that's what that's going into. Okay, scriptures deal with elders even since the time of Moses. And this particular verse is speaking about Enoch, which goes back to Genesis. So this is a prophecy in Genesis that still hasn't taken place. Okay. Genesis means the beginning. Okay. So the end was already prophesied in the book of Genesis. And Enoch is the seventh son from Adam, which he was prophesying this all the way back in the ancient world, going back to, that far, man. And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these things, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. See? And this is why we steadfast, man, just, to focus on patience, the kingdom, being willing to endure sufferings, because we know that this is the end game. End game. You know what I'm saying? And so with that, man, we're going to wrap it up. Say blessings, peace to the hopeful elect. Stay strong. And remember just to remember these words. Be comforted by these words. Shalom.